It was the summer I turned 18, one of those summers that feel endless. My friend Alex and I had decided to explore the old rural roads that snaked beyond the limits of our small town. We were looking for adventure, the kind of freedom found only away from city lights. One July night, with the full moon bathing the landscape in silver light, we ventured down a gravel path that, according to rumors, led to a hidden lake. The road became increasingly narrow, the tree branches intertwined above us, creating a dark and oppressive tunnel. Finally, Alex's car, an old sedan that had seen better days, stopped. The engine coughed and died, leaving us in a sepulchral silence, broken only by the incessant chorus of crickets. We tried to start the car, but there was no response. We were stranded. Alex pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. The moon was our only light source, casting dancing shadows that seemed to come alive. We decided to walk. The road, which had once seemed like a promise of discovery, now felt like a trap. As we walked, the air became strangely cold, despite the warmth of the summer night. A peculiar smell, like damp earth and something else, something sweet and putrid, began to permeate the air. Then, we saw it. A figure. At first, we thought it was a twisted tree, but as we got closer, the silhouette became clearer. It was a woman. She stood in the middle of the road, her back to us, with long, dark hair falling over her shoulders. She wore a white dress which seemed to glow faintly under the moonlight. She didn't move. She made no sound. She was just there, motionless, like a statue. Alex and I stopped dead in our tracks, our hearts pounding in our chests. The air grew even colder, and the nauseating smell intensified. Alex tried to call out to her, but the words caught in his throat. The woman remained motionless. A shiver ran down my spine. There was something profoundly unnatural about her stillness. Suddenly, without warning, the woman turned her head. Not her body, just her head, at an impossible angle. Her eyes, or what appeared to be her eyes in the darkness, glowed with a reddish light. And then a smile, a wide, deranged smile that stretched beyond what a human face should allow. She made no sound, but the expression on her face was one of pure malevolence. That was enough. We turned and ran. We ran without looking back, the sound of our own footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. We didn't know what we were running from, but the feeling of terror was overwhelming. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs gave out. When we finally reached the main road, the sun was beginning to peek over the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. Alex's car was found the next day, intact, but we never ventured down that road again. And to this day, every time I see a solitary figure in the distance or feel an inexplicable chill on a summer night, I remember the woman's smile on the forgotten road, and I know that some things, once seen, can never be erased from the mind. My name is Elena, and this story happened last summer at my grandmother's beach house, a place that had always been my refuge. It was a small wooden cabin overlooking the ocean where time seemed to stand still. My two children, Leo, 7, and Sophia, 5, loved spending summers there, building sandcastles and chasing waves. One August night, after a long day in the sun, the children fell asleep early. My husband, David, and I were on the back deck, enjoying the sea breeze and the sound of the waves. It was a perfect night, one of those that make you feel like everything is right in the world. Suddenly, Leo appeared at the deck door, his eyes wide and scared. He said he had heard a scratching in his room, a sound that kept him awake.
David, always practical, thought it was an animal in the attic or the wind playing with the old house. He went downstairs with Leo to investigate while I stayed on the deck, trying not to worry. A few minutes passed, and then I heard a muffled scream. It wasn't Leo, it was David, a scream of pure surprise and terror. My heart stopped. I ran downstairs, panic seizing me. Leo's bedroom door was wide open. Moonlight filtered through the window, revealing a mess. Furniture was overturned and there were deep scratch marks on the wall, as if something with sharp claws had tried to break through. David was on the floor, unconscious, and Leo was huddled in a corner, trembling, pointing at the wall. "Mommy, the man in the wall," he whispered. The scratching, I heard it then. It came from inside the wall, a slow, constant sound as if something were dragging itself. It wasn't an animal. It was too big, too methodical. The wall began to bulge, as if something were pushing from within. The plaster cracked, and small particles fell to the floor. A smell, a sweet, nauseating smell, like decaying flesh and dampness, filled the room. I couldn't move. Terror had paralyzed me. And then, a voice. Not a voice heard with the ears, but one that resonated directly in my mind. "I found you." It was an ancient voice, full of malice, that seemed to vibrate in my bones. The wall burst open, revealing a dark, damp space. And from the darkness, a figure emerged. It wasn't a man. It was a pale, emaciated creature with long, sharp claws. Its skin was covered in mold and dirt, and its body was thin and twisted. It dragged itself towards us, its eyes fixed on Leo. I grabbed Leo and Sophia, who had woken up with the noise, and ran. I ran aimlessly, the sound of the creature's dragging echoing behind me. I reached the front door, but it was locked. The creature was getting closer, its foul breath on my neck. I closed my eyes, awaiting the inevitable. And then, the door burst open. The police! They had arrived. The neighbors had alerted by the screams. The creature stopped, as if the light from the flashlights hurt it. It writhed and dragged itself back into the darkness of the wall, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. David recovered, and the police investigated. They found a secret passage behind Leo's bedroom wall, a crawl space that extended beneath the house and that no one knew about. It was filled with old objects, animal bones, and a nauseating smell. The creature was never found. The police attributed it to a mentally disturbed intruder, but I know what I saw. We sealed the passage, and we never went back to the beach house. Every summer night, when I hear the wind blow or the waves break, I remember the voice in my mind and the creature that lurked in the walls. And I know that some things, once they find you, never truly leave you.
I grew up in a small town surrounded by forests where summer was magical. Every year, at the end of July, we celebrated the Firefly Festival, an event where the forest lit up with thousands of these tiny insects, creating a natural light show. It was my favorite tradition. Last year, my best friend, Clara, and I decided to go to the festival, as always. We were 16, and the night promised to be unforgettable. Music floated in the air, people's laughter filled the atmosphere, and fireflies blinked around us like fallen stars. We ventured into the forest, looking for a quiet place to watch the show. We found a secluded clearing where the fireflies were especially dense. They seemed to dance around us, their lights pulsing in a hypnotic rhythm. We sat on the grass, watching the show. Time seemed to stand still. I don't know how long we were there, but the feeling was one of absolute peace. Suddenly, Clara asked me the time. I pulled out my phone. It was 3 a.m. I froze. We had arrived at the festival around 9 p.m. How was it possible that 6 hours had passed without us noticing? Clara was also confused.
We swore only a few minutes had passed. We tried to go back to the festival, but the path we had taken was no longer there. The trees seemed to have moved, forming an impenetrable labyrinth. The fireflies, which were once beautiful, now seemed to watch us, their lights blinking erratically like tiny eyes. The hum they emitted grew louder, more insistent, as if they were whispering. We couldn't understand what they were saying, but the feeling was that they were judging us, or worse, laughing at us. The air became heavy, and the smell of damp earth mixed with a sweet, cloying aroma, like withered flowers. The fireflies' lights began to form patterns in the air, geometric figures that shifted and writhed. They weren't random. They seemed like messages, but we couldn't decipher them. Clara began to cry, her voice drowned out by the hum. We tried to run, but the forest seemed to move with us, the trees closing in on us, and the fireflies surrounding us, their lights growing brighter, almost blinding. We felt a pressure, as if something invisible was pushing us, guiding us deeper into the forest. The sense of time completely vanished. We didn't know if minutes, hours, or days had passed. We woke up the next morning at the edge of the forest, right where we had entered the festival. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and the air smelled of dew. Everything seemed normal, but it wasn't. Our phones showed that only a few minutes had passed since we had entered the forest. However, we felt exhausted, as if we had run a marathon. And on our arms, there were marks, small, circular burns, as if thousands of fireflies had landed on us at the same time. We never went back to the Firefly Festival. And every time I see a firefly or smell a sweet aroma in the air, I remember that night in the forest. And I know that time sometimes is not what it seems, and that there are things in the darkness that should not be seen.
Don't watch alone. Like, subscribe, and comment your favorite moment or any story you have had. The night is just beginning on our channel.